rate was really ignored as a measuring tool when I began teaching. You know, we did percentages correct and a lot of things. But as we began teaching students to read in the world of behavior, rate could no longer be ignored. We've gotten over our history a lot of misconceptions tied into what we have done in Great Leaps, because first we used timers. And through the use of timers, people started getting this idea that we were encouraging students to race. And what we needed the timers primarily for was to take accurate data so we could chart it and see relevant movement. Often with children who are learning to read, of course, we are working to speed up their reading, because our objective in reading has been to get the children up to a rate that is commensurate with the rates of spoken language, so we would get comprehension. I wish Henry Hinnenbaum was here. Maybe he'll show up later. He wrote a seminal article with Dr. Wolking, one of my prime professors, years ago, where they were defining comprehension. And in their definition of reading comprehension, they put a number of things together. The first was rate. The rate of oral reading must move closely to match that of spoken language. So in comprehension, the first thing they listed was rate of reading has to approach the rate of human conversation, which in most of the country is 140 to 180 words per minute. Down here, it could be anywhere from 11 to 12. And that's a bad joke. But rate approaching the speed of language. Intonation. Without intonation, fast reading can be nothing but robot reading. And yeah, I've seen some kids go really, really fast, and yet you could tell they didn't understand a thing of what they were reading, because it's all flat. They ignored punctuation. There's no intonation. So the two prime elements as tutors we can really involve ourselves in are rate and intonation. The third piece, and we work on this experimentally, is word and world knowledge. So you put those three together for there to be adequate comprehension.
So I had
the thing many programs miss. Right.
Yeah, I have that video of Devontae that many of you have probably seen, but I'll see if it works. We're gonna try to play it through my computer to everyone, and then see what observations you all have about kind of his before and after. We got some interesting criticism on that my dad will probably speak to, but let me see if I can screen share and see if the volume and everything will come through for you all. Let's see. Oh, whoops, skip to the end.
Oh yeah, I want him to slam his fist.
Right, yeah, I'll start. Can you all hear that? Can you hear it at all? No? Okay, let me try.
Colin, when you share, you have to, there's a button when it says share screen, and you have to click it says share audio.
Is that coming through?
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
5, 4, 3. Look and see. Just swish it up. You did good. No. See, it's the first time through. Hey, when that makes things that don't make sense.
Sorry, my bird's going off too.
Are you ready? Yeah. Okay, start.
Apologize had to think. Before long, the coach, the players, and everyone in the stands could not believe their eyes. This little unknown who had never played before was doing everything right. Dad came to all my games, but today was the first time he could see me play, and I wanted to show him I could do it.
Okay.
Gee,
What?
did that feel absolutely awesome? That is a Devante record in 198 words per minute with one error.
So I realized I just
Colin,
did play the one that had the shorter clip of him reading and the
No,
faster part.
this did it. When the criticism I got from this tape just blew me away. I was informed by many other geniuses out there that reading is more than just speed. And oh my gosh, in 50 years of teaching, I never thought of that. I wanted to say, as we were attacked for showing a young child in 1 year moving from 25 words a minute or so to 190, in the smiles on his face into growth, but the anti-rate people thought that all we do is increase reading speed. I wanted to scream. Did you not listen to the boy? Did you not hear? Did you not hear intonation? Did you not hear through your teaching experience that this boy was understanding what he was reading? Did you not see the smile? Where are these opponents of rate coming from? And if we encounter them, when we encounter them, how do we say what we're doing is more than speed building? We're not just doing read, reread until we get memorization and can get fast memorization. We're actually teaching and improving oral reading. But what I just wanted to show everyone to be able to see in 1 year, not only what we can be doing and are doing regularly, but the criticisms we're going to face as we speak of rate as a measuring tool and as a goal. Some of the other programs out there that purport to teach reading, and in my opinion, they're just giving some skills, don't involve rate at all. And when they do, the rates are so low as to not be relevant to reading. Anyone got any statements on, after hearing Devante, and Lisa may can even give us an update on, that was Levante in the 4th grade. You can probably give us an update on Levante as a shaving young man.
Devante. But real quick, Kathy had a question about where to find words per minute. So when you're in digital, if you go to the charts and the raw records that are listed for each day beneath the charts, you'll see the words per minute listed there as one of those columns. I don't have a student open to kind of show that at the moment, but you can find it when you pull up your students' data in Great Leaps Digital. But sorry, Lisa or Mary, unmuted now.
I think Lisa, for an update would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Devante graduated he was my first student. He graduated the program in 17 months with a large break in the middle. The earlier section was before he moved to Baltimore, and then after. He was actually the first Great Leaps distance student ever. I wish I had time to get the picture, but he is a young man now who is shaving. Looks like he's going to be a good football player. He's the real deal. And he is still, he didn't slide backwards, even though he switched schools, I think 4 times in 3 years. He is still reading. He is still holding his own. Any challenges that he's having academically aren't related to reading at this point. And if I could comment, Colin, is it okay if I go into what piggyback off of what your dad was saying about rate and other programs?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I did some looking, and a typical Orton Gillingham program that does do timings of sorts does it at the end of each level, so to speak. And the rate that they're calling for by the later years in the program, first it starts off at 2.3 seconds, 3 seconds, and then 3.3 seconds halfway through the program. So I have something here that would be friends don't know his secret. That's what 3 words, a word every 3 seconds sounds like. And accurate comprehension is hard at that rate. I don't think anybody could really comprehend well if that was the rate they were reading at on average.
Once you get past 3rd grade reading, you're true. 3rd grade reading, you got subject, verb, object at most. Once you throw in conjunctions and prepositional phrases, 20, 30, 40 minutes, words a minute becomes meaningless. You just can't track it.
My students, I don't tell them to go fast, by the way. That's something that, I mean, you guys work the program. I hardly ever will say the word fast. I use the word smooth because you do have to be smooth. So my kids, it's never go. But
Yeah.
we do make demands on them to go smoother and to get the words out more flowing, because the rate is needed to understand what they're reading.
I've used this topic before, telling a child to slow down so you'll speed up. And when I get this, of course the kids want to win. They just do. Nothing wrong with that. But I just picked up an article by me, so this isn't a child's thing to read, but this is when I'll tell a child to slow down so they'll speed up. The number of students in the United States who have reading difficulties is alarming. Estimates from well-designed longitudinal studies indicate that by 4th grade, when I hear that kind of behavior going on, back and forth, yeah, he's trying to please. He doesn't want to make mistakes, and so on. But then I'll go, slow down. You'll speed up. It goes both ways. But one of the reasons we model passages is so they can hear what it should sound like. So the modeling, and we also model that speed of 140, 160 words a minute or so, and we start getting it. Another criticism we're thrown at is, oh, they're doing nothing but memorizing it. Okay, if I get memorization, this is what it sounds like. The personal and societal costs of reading problems are substantial. Illiteracy is positively correlated with unemployment, low wages, poverty, crime, and low self-esteem. The Orton dyslexia. Okay, that's a sign. Okay, he's got it memorized at that point, and then boo, we hit the brakes. If she's tracking, fine with me, because now the eyes are being trained. If you get this behavior, the personal and societal costs of reading problems are substantial. Illiteracy is positively correlated with unemployment, low wages, poverty, crime, and low self-esteem. Oh, he's got it memorized. He isn't following or tracking. Now he wants me to put him back on place. Yes, we get memorization, especially when they've had to be on a passage 6, 7, 8, 9 times. It isn't a bad thing if they're tracking. And I do let them have, if they've just got it memorized and are not tracking, I do let them have those uncomfortable few seconds that I modeled. Because they have no clue where they're at. Okay, suffer a little bit. Why don't we start out with you following along as you read? And we'll try it again. That's one of the few times I go back and do a re-go, is when I get that memorization stuff without them tracking. But reading involves a lot of behaviors, including the tracking from the eyes. So even if they got it memorized, if they're tracking, I'm getting reading behaviors that I want. So a lot goes into thought And it seems in our world, very little goes into criticism.
Yeah, I found it interesting that in terms of speed, how you mentioned with oftentimes the older students. I know we've talked about it before in like previous things, but how sometimes high frequency words can like unlock that for students, and you'll see these huge jumps. So I guess in the case we, as I talked with you earlier today, there's that recent student who was doing really well in high frequency words, really well in phonics. And this is a high school student, but when putting it together in the stories, the error rates would skyrocket, and then the reading speed would drop down. And I think the most recent was like the 94 words per minute or so, which was, you know, well below where he was at in sight phrases. So I was just curious if there's anything
And we're
that
still in
might
conjecture
be
right now.
right. It is. Yeah, this is something that was literally talked about today, but was just kind of a really interesting from a student.
But the first thing I thought of when I saw perfect phonics scores, like through way past the halfway part of the program, and then very, very good high frequency phrases scores, and then a disaster, 90 words a minute with 5 or 6 errors on reading passages. My first thing that comes to mind with me is the feeling that, boy, this guy's been in a program where he's been given tools, and he's got his tool, he's got a lot of the tools, he just doesn't know how to use them. So you're hitting, boy, he knows it's phonics, he's been trained. So a lot of children who've gone through Orton Gillingham for a number of years sometimes have great word attack skills.
Sorry,
and then we go to the high frequency phrases. That was amazing. That's not his problem. That suddenly we saw, oh, he's doing great in that. Then why is his oral reading fluency so slow? Well, we just seen the problem today. So the problem just came up. So my first conjecture, it's a tool. Second conjecture is my conjecture is the problem is in oral reading, and we need to go there. Now, what I'd like to do when see 5 to 6, what were the mistakes? To do an analysis on where are his mistakes coming from. But that's how we work with a kid that has some of those early. I'm seeing a question from Lasagna. Did any Lasagna, can you unmute and ask?
You already did.
Oh, she's in 2 meetings. The Great Leaps Digital, I think I just got a little half of a question there about 6-year-olds, primarily for reading remediation. Primarily my work has been for 3rd graders up in the Great Leaps Digital reading piece, even though there are many people now working with 6 and 7-year-olds. The primary strength of the program is in 3rd grade all the way to adult, you know, providing the IQ 70 or so. I don't have everybody muted, do I? I'm not hearing it.
No, can I?
There.
Yeah, I always show that video of Devante in all my trainings. And let me ask Anthony, because Anthony was at one of my trainings. What was, Anthony, do you recall? I don't know if he's hearing me. Anthony, do you recall at the
Yeah,
training?
I hear you.
Okay, do you recall when I first showed the video of the struggling reader and I showed Devante's video?
I don't remember that specific video because it was very, I don't know, it's an amazing transformation and he's reading so quickly.
Yeah.
I think in a sense, I would like to speak to something about that. My
Mhm.
own experience about rate when I like, and what I learned about rate when I was being initiated as a teacher in the DOE in 2005,
Mhm.
where I would actually discount that. That would make me think this was it would not be a powerful video based on what I was told when I was a new teacher.
What were you told?
Well, in 2005, it was the height of whole language balanced literacy. And I remember real early on getting, I don't know if I was reading this or I was something that I had to read. It was an article. It was basically something that was slamming rate. It's about a school saying how they were working really hard for 2 or 3 years to get their kids to read faster. And then that's how they developed. And this is the thing, this is the bugaboo that every whole language teacher will tell you, is that they believe their kids are decoding higher than they can comprehend. Like, they don't need decoding work, they need comprehension work. And so I was taught that rate doesn't matter, because rate, if you try to get your kids to read faster, there's not necessarily that they're understanding what they're reading. And so that was like, rate was really discredited when I was coming up. At least when I read this, it made a big impression on me. Of course, it was very difficult for me because I was coming from the Hunter lab. We had a tutoring lab, and I was training as a special ed teacher. So when I got to the DOE, it was like, oh, you don't deal with every kid individually. You actually teach a curriculum, and the curriculum is so above their head that, it was this huge, shift. And so maybe that became something that stood out more than other things, and it shouldn't have. But I do know that from what the whole language people really feel like if you're just working for rate, you're not getting comprehension. And it's a false goal. So it's a goal that's not going to get you what you want from your students, which is for them to be reading with comprehension.
It's a very interesting point that you're bringing up, because I think that a lot of our teachers coming out of the schools, the colleges,
yes, programs,
that is what they're taught, that rate is not a good thing, and it doesn't equal comprehension. And that's the problem that we're having to reteach how important rate is.
I think a more effective video would be maybe Devon again, but not quite 190 words per minute. That seems like it's such a huge growth. If we just had him reading, I think you might scare people away with that, because they think that all you're working on is rate, when really you're not just working on rate, you're working on a lot more.
Can I show you a high
and
school
rate is different,
video?
and rate is even different than automaticity. I think automaticity is a real strong word right now, I think, to use instead of to go along with rate, maybe. This is my opinion. But go ahead.
One question again before you speak, and then you can show it.
I have to leave.
Often fluency is equated with rate, and not the true definition of fluency. Fluency is not speed. Fluency is reading with understanding, with full understanding, leading to prosody. But amazing how the word now fluency is tied in with fluency is 95 miles an hour. Well, no, it isn't. So go ahead, Lisa. It's just that misnomer. Fluency has, of course, it has something to do with rate, but it isn't all to do with rate at all. Henry's in. Henry, we were even talking about your article some.
Yeah, I apologize that I have to jump, but if you want to see, I have a high school student that demonstrates this stuff. Of course, Colin has to let me share the screen. Colin.
We may have lost our moderator. I can't see.
Colin?
We've lost. Oh, there.
No, he's there.
He may be on a call. He may be muted on a call.
Colin, can I share my screen? Nope. Okay.
He's I'm trying to get his attention.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I guess I will not be able to do that. But as for Devontae, I do have better video of him than what we used for that. on elephant ear sandwich. I will, and if anybody's interested, I can email to people out a couple of links on students at various age levels of where they were and where they are, where they've moved to in fluency. It does matter. And yeah, fluency does have a lot to do with rate. Henry can speak into that. Hank, you there?
You might be muted.
He might not be able to hear. He's also driving last time I saw.
Okay. The Devontae story, which you can't show on the film, that most impressed me had to do when I heard that he had gone to the book fair as a probably still fourth grader, maybe a fifth grader, gone to the book fair and got him a book on astronomy. And so he bought him a book. He chose to buy the book at the book fair, and now mom is taking him to the store or somewhere, and he doesn't really want to go into the store. He'd rather just sit somewhere and read his brand new book. That is generalization, and that is the victory we're going for. And rarely can we show child from the point where you hate reading to the point where now you're free and you're laying back comfortably on the sofa and the book's talking to you. That's the goal.
That's the testimony you need. You need that on film. Like I had a kid that I interviewed, Yamira, the kid that Lisa took over, who before I sent her to Lisa, I asked her, and she was about how she felt about reading. She's like she said that she didn't feel scared when a teacher gave her a worksheet, that she knew that she'd be able to get through it. She felt like every kid should have this. She felt so much less anxiety, and that she really enjoyed reading. So that's the testimony you need.
You put together a very good word there, is anxiety. Once you start winning, that a lot of that anxiety is removed, because your failure brings on, or feeling you're going to fail brings on the anxieties. So it's kind of neat to watch those changes, the behavioral changes. I really like when I hear behavior change, because reading is just one facet of what we as educators work with. How big a facet? Well, pretty. But to hear that we're anxiety producing, and children now take the chance by raising their hand, take the chance by going to a book fair and getting a book. What are the chances 80% or more, or 90% or more of the words in the new book he got? To me, it was highly unlikely that he could fluently read the book that we caught him reading. And that is just interesting in my mind as a teacher, is, okay, why would a boy get something that if we did a timing on him, he can't really read it, but yet he buys the book and he's spending time with it? What's that? That goes against, that's a thing about rate that goes against a lot of what we've been told and watched, but yet I heard it, and it's a huge indicator of success. Mary, you were saying something before I interjected.
Yeah, usually I show the Devontae video, and I do get people questioning the video. They all want to know more about it. They want to know more about how long it took for him to get from 25 words to 198 words. And they're very interested. It does have an effect on them. It does show them the potential. And that's the reason why I show them the video. I want them to see visually a struggling student at the beginning of the video, because they have them all sitting in their classrooms. And then I want them to see the potential of what can happen if we do Great Leaps with Fidelity with them, that you can possibly get a student to be reading at a faster rate, but reading with comprehension at a faster rate, which is fluency, and an appropriate rate, you know. And the thing is that when they hear Devontae reading, they can't understand him, mainly because he's reading so fast, you know. And that's why some people don't believe it or are incredulous and don't feel that it's that important or that's not what we should be doing. But I think that after they have used the program for 2 weeks, I get them on another training and I'm seeing different reactions. You know, they believe that they can move their students like Devontae moved from 25 words a minute to a better rate, a faster rate.
What I like best about the video is the early one where the camera caught frustration. The camera caught just to give up. I hate that, and his own words
Right.
are perfect. I hate this when it doesn't make
Right,
sense. Those are the perfect words. And in the end, it appears many who have heard it perhaps can't track reading when it goes that fast.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going on with, I hear intonation. I hear stopping at the punctuation. I hear inflection. I hear, and I see and sense comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if everyone can do that. I make presumptions sometimes that, boy, it's obvious this kid understands it.
Yeah.
I hear it.
There's another video that Lisa has that shows him doing the depth of knowledge questions. He's reading it quickly, but then he's answering questions. That's showing more depth of understanding from Devontae. And that's another good video.
It's kind of neat since he was the first long distance learning kid.
That's amazing. I didn't know he was the first.
Yeah, he was the very, very first. We didn't even know as we're moving to digital format that it could be done through long distance. And we began finding out not only could it be done through long distance, it could even be done with 2 books long distance with a telephone, just not as good as what we can do now.
Right.
So that just opened up our doors for being able to change kids' lives, because school systems have an awful lot of problem finding 15 minutes for one kid.
Well, I think that nationwide, administrators and school districts are looking at how they can help the students catch up with a year of lost learning. And they don't even know where to begin. And I think that it's a shame that they can't see the efficacy of Great Leaps for this very important movement that we are trying to work on. And I think in terms of New York, they're going to look at Great Leaps with Paris working on it, because we have a history of a very effective program during the summer for the last 10 years that I've been working in summer school, but only in Queens North. And it's sad that the director left because she could really speak to it, but she retired and I don't know who replaced her. But
Mary, one of the things when I first went to New York, and I'm certainly not dismissing my South and my Florida, but one of the things that just slapped me in the face when I began working with teachers that cared throughout New York City, it was the high level of professional involvement and concern and care that I encountered. And I felt like I was coming from a world of lethargy. And no excitement in learning, and no excitement about learning everything new, and every in-service was boring, and nothing seemed to be happening here. And my first encounters with New York City were just, wow, I've never been surrounded with so many teacher level people who care.
They're very, very professional, and those that are dedicated to their craft, they really apply what they learned, And even my parents, look at Ashley. She's a perfect example of a successful para story. She loved the program, wasn't getting enough of it, came back for a second training just to tweak it because, you know, I change it all the time. So look at where she is now. She can do anything. She loves the program and she could do anything. And that's a dedication that I see in a lot of the teachers and paras that I have worked with. I'm not saying all of them.
Oh, no kidding. No, I've been, there's no
Yeah.
place on the world you can go and find everybody good. It's just the level of professionalism that I encountered was much different than the world in which I live. And I don't know if you were with us or not when I did this, Mary, but when we were just kicking butt in New York City, I brought 6 teachers from my own area, all expense paid, to come to New York and see it, you know, live this professional experience with people who really cared. And they were all into seeing the Empire State Building and getting a Broadway play. And it's like, they couldn't see that incredible amount of professionalism and excitement about learning a new thing that I saw in the city. I was just, again, I know Florida has a lot of great people because I worked with a lot of great people, but the whole idea of what I saw in the city and the focus on the problem, not the focus on pay or on this, that.
Mhm.
The focus was so much on being the best professional I could be, even if it were in programs I didn't even like or agree with. It's just that feeling. I wish we could get it all through the schools of the country, that teaching is not a job. And it's more than a career, it's a calling.
Yeah.
And how do we find here in the South where our problems, well, the problems are countrywide here now, but we have our own spectacular problems that for a long time, as educators, we've not dealt head on with like the problems of literacy. And seeing just the excitement that I wish everybody here could come in, you know, and maybe Great Leaps will kick somebody again, and I can send everybody to New York and we'll do it again. Because anybody that's the next time, we're going to be the winners.
That'll be fun. It's been very motivating for me, and I've learned a lot from my paras and teachers. When I have teachers like Anthony who takes the program and grows it the way he has in his school, it's amazing. His dedication and resolve, and how he tenaciously did fundraising, you know, to get even more licenses. I mean, I admire him so much.
I'm sorry, I just pressed record. Could you do that again, please? Thank you.
Anthony DeMonica. I can't blab such blubber. My mouth isn't. We were talking about Fox and Socks. I'm trying to get me a Dr. Seuss Stein version of Fox and Socks because I used to teach it with my 4-year-olds, and I had so much fun with that crazy story. And Anthony and I were talking about, imagine if you could get your special ed kids, and this was part of detoxing your program from people thinking that anybody working with me are the stupid kids and stuff. I had to destigmatize it, not detox it. And some of the destigmatizing things you do are showing your kids doing amazing things that everybody else can't do. We had my special ed class for years was the Jeopardy champions of the school. You know, of course, I got to be Alex and ask the questions, but didn't cheat. But we'd have great things like states and capitals. Okay, states and capitals for 20, Mr. Campbell. All right, Fargo's not the capital. Being winner, you know, doing all kinds of fun things like that. Where my kids, they learn states and capitals, timetables for So I use Jeopardy to teach, but then teaching my kids fast response. Uh-oh, there goes speed again. We were the fastest, we were the best, and nobody knew I was special ed anymore at all. They want to know how to get in. So how do you get in? I'm not gonna lie. Please go to guidance and refer yourself for Mr. Campbell's program. And I hope you get in. But then my children got to invite friends to the class to play Jeopardy on Fridays. And
Oh,
see,
wow.
all that's destigmatizing, and it's teaching. I can have categories they don't know, and that way I'm teaching. And so you need a lot of facts. How do you get your kids filled with facts? You do your best teaching when they know they're not being taught. The confidence, a lot of our kids labeled learning disabled and dyslexic. I hate labels. You might start hearing at a time, and they were each so unique. That was part of why I love teaching. Every kid's unique. And so the idea of them being stigmatized by being in my program, I had to do something about that. And the main thing to do but kill it is, I got a brain. Let's destigmatize this sucker. Let's get everybody off track. Let's think about the criticalness of our little kids and what they think of themselves as they're being dissed. Well, let's undist them. So when peer teaching came in, man, what they would do is pick every kid out of the class that has big time problems, pull them to the back to teach them. Sounds like common sense, but it's stigmatizing. Why don't you pull in the smartest kid too? So you got 4 kids that need your help and 1 kid that's absolutely the smartest kid in the room. So obviously you're just not working with the dummies. And so you're destigmatizing. Always, 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 whatever you do and however you teach, you have to think about, what does the kid feel? Where am I taking this kid? And then the greatest part of teaching is something good teachers know real early. Who is this kid? And there's your power. Because with teachers, you're born a teacher. It just matters to you. And we get off track. I just read some guy gave an in-service, and he was saying deaf children because they could never understand phonics. And phonological awareness, early phonological awareness, because they were deaf, they would never get beyond 4th grade reading. The guy said that in an in-service. Why wasn't he shouted down? I mean, that's idiocy. That's not understanding the world right around you. What school is he teaching at, or being a professor at? We need to confront lies when we're hit with them. That's not a true statement. Our children, when you see this world bearing down on them because the bureaucracy and the system is doing it, our job is to fight it and change it. And the best way to fight and change is through success, not through hiring committees to solve problems, through saving kids and giving them what they need and not what they should have. How many schools have said, I want these special ed kids reading and working out of their geography text that everybody else is working out of? Well, when the teacher's having everybody sit down with the book and read it for 20 minutes, and that's the lesson, our kids are kind of lost. We're asking our kids that can't swim to jump off the high dive. We got to quit that. That's not fair. It's not right. And it's punishment. And punishment always only does one thing. It leads to escape behaviors. And now we got an entire country of escape behaviors, because we've been punishing when we didn't have to be. School should be. Isn't it neat when you're teaching? And I had to teach a reading class to a whole group of kids that basically couldn't read, that at the end of it's Friday, it's today, the bell rings and it's time to go home. And your class moans. Oh, man, that is a win. And that's what we all need to aim for, is to have a joyous teaching experience. I'll never forget Miss Tyler. She had the room next to mine. Her room was rigid, rigid. Miss Tyler had everyone sitting down she would get on you if your back was slumped. You not only had to be sitting down, you had to be sitting down right. And then next door, next door we're playing Jeopardy, or I've told everybody Vanna White is coming by to run my next session and things like that. We are having fun. And then I have the secretary who come walking into the room and said, "Mr. Campbell, is Vanna White really your cousin?" Well, yeah, what of it? You know, just because I'm ugly, no reason, no reason to wonder she ain't my cousin. Why? Don't tell me she ain't coming. Well, yes, that's what oh man, you're just playing those games with kids all, Vanna White's your cousin? I told you that. You know, it's play, teach, have fun. Play, teach, have fun. Every kid matters, you know, and they must win. And this is getting back to rate. It isn't the skills I've been hired to teach. It's the child I've been hired to teach. And the teaching must generalize into the real world. Being able to figure out what the word stalactite and stalagmite mean, one word at a time, because I taught it in my class, very random chance that's going to be a winner. But when I can teach them to have the confidence to read and it make a modicum of sense to them, and that's what you call when you get the success ball rolling, you got it on. We had to push uphill. There's a point where now it's going downhill, and that ball picks up speed without me. That's the objective. And we're fighting skill-based people who are so focused on skills, they miss the big picture, or the idea is to have the skills all come together in the reading. In my opinion, we're having them put together crossword, we're having to put together 500-piece puzzles without the picture on it. And yeah, I can guess I can teach them to do that. But then there gets the point, what do I have when I finished? I've got a 5 when we finish. And I hope we have a child with the confidence to begin participating in class in the switch. Success builds success, and you move from uphill to downhill. And you cannot do that without a modicum of rate. And now, as the neuroscientists start looking at stuff, we start seeing the importance of rate, automaticity, and actually the story or the task doing itself for you. So when you confuse fluency, you're missing. When you think that's all fluency is, you're just missing it. You can't have automaticity without a modicum of speed, be it 80 words a minute in Florence, South Carolina, or 400 in Providence, Rhode Island. I can listen and hear that understanding and how closely it's related to rate. We cannot let the phonics and the skills people take over our field as we attack whole language tactics. And the main tactic we attack of them is them removing phonics. We attack that because it's wrong. But I do not attack, some of our people now are attacking using phonic skills to, in what you're reading, to take a guess at what the word is. Word guessing is wrong when you're using a picture to guess that mammoth and you guess elephant. That's what you get without the phonics piece. But I'd like the child to take a look at those first 3 or 4 letters and see through contextual clues. Can you determine what the word is? Because if you did, you don't need me so much. You're doing it. But yet this kind of guessing is presently under attack. And I think that's a logical guessing that I don't disagree with. And if you miss the word, I'm also, here I go again. So what? I'll tell you what it is. What are your odds of a kid looking up? How many times did your teacher tell you to go look it up? He told me that all the time. If you don't know what word, go look it up. What's my percentage of going and looking them up? And that's, you get a clue who I am. That's near 0. I don't do that. So when I had to teach dictionary skills, all the other teachers would have the kids look up the word and write all that stuff down. My class, I just taught them, first I had the good luck of having the same dictionaries in the room. We just had a contest. Okay, here's the words, look them up, write the page number down. Ready, set, go. If you can look it up, skill done. Because I know it's not a skill. And guess what? It's not even a skill you need anymore. Because when I hit a new word, I've got my iPad. I can have it look it up for me. If I want to go further, I can even have it pronounce it for me. So again, I guess the main point is we can't forget rate, and we can't forget our objective. And you can't have a reading objective, long-term objective, in my world, without rate being perhaps the cornerstone of what we measure in reading. Some things I don't have time to measure and chart, like intonation. We could come up with that if I had to. I don't have the time. So we have to determine what to measure. And in rate, I've heard of what I'm doing right now, and it may take the rest of my life to get it done right. But I want our digital program to soon be taking a child's data and his performance data and determine the rate of that child, and then begin making rate-based decisions in what determines goals as we move along, that instead of all these speeds and rates that I determined 25, 30 years ago, is now we have better techniques so we can individualize this, and I can get back into what we call precision teaching. I had to take data from hundreds of kids, take that data and generalize it so it could help the most. Well, now we're getting to the point where our technology can help us individualize. And when it helps us individualize, we can now begin setting individualized rates. So that, again, my child from Dalton, Georgia, he reads like this. I'll always remember him. It was wonderful. The number of students in the United States who have reading difficulties is alarming. Then he looks at you for a second. You know? Estimates from well-designed Fluency. My gosh, I'm listening to 90 words a minute Fluency. And it's wonderful. I'll never get that sucker to 180, ever. But in my room, I didn't have to, because I knew him. And there's your critical difference. Every kid's different. Not all kids from Dalton, Georgia read at 80, 90 words a minute. I could probably find you somebody that reads at 190, 200. But
Dad, we had a
some
question
of the cool
from
directions we're going. All right.
Yeah, can you, sorry, I had to step out for some calls for a minute there, but we had a question from Kathy in the chat. Can you hear me okay? Hello? Oh no. Can you hear me?
Can you write it? I can't hear it. No. Well, obviously I heard that.
You can't hear me?
But yeah, I can. I'll keep my thumbs up as long as I can hear it. You see me?
Okay. Kathy was asking, is there any information somewhere where you can find what rate a child should be reading at based on their age?
Yes. Hasbrook, Jan Hasbrook has done most of the data on that, but we can send it to you. But if you want to, this is kind of fun. When you go to the index of the Great Leap stories, I took out, they used to say grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 until certain kids who were like 8th and 9th grade saw they were on 3rd grade stories, and it was humiliating and embarrassing them. So I don't know what I call them now. It might be level 1, level 2. There's another word there beside grade. But if you want to look at the speeds they ought to be looking at, go to the level 3 and look at the start and look at the finish. And then you can do the decimals in between. And that's a pretty good rate of what Ken Campbell thinks on grade level reading and what speeds it should be. And you can go to Jan Hasbrook, just Google it. And Jan Hasbrook is probably the #1 author on that. You know, now don't go by Read Naturally after you read that.
So to translate that real quick for digital, if you're on digital, you can, in the menu under resources, pull out the readabilities of each of the stories. And then based off of that, see what stories the grade level what the grade level of those stories would be at, and then look at the story itself and see how many words it is. So that would be the kind of equivalent as opposed to our index that was in the book version.
This is kind of funny because it's 5 o'clock, but readability is brought up, and I think be wary of me because it's the point of age where we move from being wise to being foolish and then to being crazy. But I'm stopping a readability scale. Because 1, it changes, and 2, when I look at all the scales out there, there's so much variance, and then people start using, oh, he's 4th grade, so he needs to read 4th grade readability. Well, Steinbeck writes it to 5th grade, a whole lot of Steinbeck, Hemingway, all right, 5th to 7th grade. Are they writing 5th to 7th grade? No way. So what's going on? Well, it's just, I guess I call it an intellectual convenience that we use. So let the child's performance begin determining, and I do like the idea of the stairway to heaven, that one step leads to the next. I love that idea, but trying to put a grade level on it that has meaning is becoming more difficult for me over time. So readability and speed, like what we were just talking about in speeds, except for my boy in Dalton, Georgia. And for some children, 140 is too slow. So the whole idea of individualizing and being involved with your student, and hopefully as we start kicking butt more and more and putting decisions into the materials, that next huge step will be the individualization of performance standards. I mean, I love that possibility because now we're moving away from me making generalizations into having performance based on the individual student and have their performance determine what proficiency is based on the kid. And good teachers can hear and know that, but our job is now we need, in a reading crisis, we need about 100,000 people out there doing this.